I'm Mark Golub, and in the news, all eyes remain on the Pittsburgh Jewish community in the aftermath of the horrific murders of 11 congregants of the Tree of Life or Simcha congregation. As evil as those mass murders were, perpetrated by a sick anti-Semite, as evil as the act of death was, the response from the entire Jewish community here in America, worldwide, the expressions of solidarity, which include the American people as a whole, the way in which America has rallied to the side of the Jewish community of America at this time of our family's grief. The goodness that has embraced the families of those lost in the madness has been nothing short of extraordinary. And I personally, and everyone on the JBS staff, and I believe I speak for all those of you in the JBS viewing family, Jew and non-Jew alike, our hearts go out to all those at Tree of Life, to the entire Pittsburgh Jewish community, and most especially to those families who've been robbed of the most precious thing in the world, people they love. There were 11 Israeli athletes murdered by Black September in the Munich Olympics of 1972. Their names will not be forgotten. The names of these 11 Jewish souls, taken from this earth for no other reason that they were Jewish, their names will not be forgotten either. Joyce Feinberg, 75 years old. Richard Gottfried, 65 years old. Rose Mallinger, 97 years old. Brothers, Cecil Rosenthal, 59, and David Rosenthal, 54. Husband and wife, Bernice Simon, 84 years old, and her husband, Sylvan Simon, 86 years old. Daniel Stein, 71 years old. Melvin Wax, 88 years old. Irving Younger, 69 years old. And Dr. Jerry Rabinowitz, 66 years old, who heard the shots from the downstairs Chavurah service, raced upstairs to see if he could help, and was himself murdered. Zecher Tzadik Livracha, may each of these names of these righteous forever be a blessing. To us, these are names of the fallen. To the Jewish community of Pittsburgh, these were more than names. These were people. Each and every one of them. And so for some personal insight, I am truly honored now to be joined on our JBS phones from Pittsburgh by Rabbi Danny Schiff, Jewish Community Foundation scholar at the United Jewish Federation of Pittsburgh. Danny, first of all, thank you so much for making some time for us.
Thank you for having me. As you will understand, this is a very heavy and very pressured time in our city. Absolutely.
And you heard me say it, but I want to say it again. I am so, so sorry for your community's loss. I'm assuming you'll tell me in a moment that you may have known some of these 11 people. If you didn't know them personally, you knew the congregation. So I express to you, and I hope you extend my expressions of condolences to all those in your community who we care about. We have a sense of the pain, only a sense, Danny. But we are with you, as really the entire American Jewish community is with you. And on Shabbat, there's going to be this unity, Shabbat of solidarity. And I hope nothing can assuage the pain. It's silly to think anything can assuage the pain. At the same time, there are expressions of empathy, sympathy, and embrace that I hope in some way, Danny, are bringing some degree of comfort to the Jewish community of Pittsburgh.
There's no question. The outpouring has been beyond extraordinary, and what is heartwarming is not just what comes from the Jewish world, though that is amazing, but also, as you said in your opening, the response of the general Pittsburgh Jewish community and the country as a whole.
Yes.
The coming together and the clear outpourings of love and the expression that this is something that has hit all Americans and that all feel deeply is profoundly felt here.
I understand and I agree with you. You say it beautifully. By the way, Danny, if I were in Pittsburgh, how are people doing right now?
Well, I would say that people are delicate. As you understand, we are in the process, as we speak, of burying our dead.
Yes.
We had 3 funerals yesterday. We have 3 funerals today. There'll be 2 more tomorrow. There'll be another one on Friday. And I hardly need to tell you, but while Jews bury their dead, it's hard to even begin to speak.
Absolutely.
So people are fragile, and people of all ages are fragile. And there is a lot of healing to do, but it's hard to even to begin the healing process until the dead are buried.
And we should just let people know we are taping right now this in the news with Danny on Wednesday. You're seeing it for the first time on Thursday, so when he describes when these funerals are taking place, you'll understand. Danny, where are you from? Where were you born? How did you get to Pittsburgh?
I was born in Australia. My original hometown is Melbourne in Australia, and I came to Pittsburgh a long time ago in the early 1990s for marriage.
Very nice. What is your wife's name?
My wife's name is Anne, but she's actually also Australian. She just happened to be here already.
I see. And do you have children?
We do.
How many?
2 children.
And I can't. You're a very handsome guy in this picture, but I can't tell how old you are. Where are your children in life?
My children are 24 and 22.
Okay. Have you had a chance to talk to them since this event occurred?
Very little.
Do you have any instinct what the people who are, young people in their early 20s, in the Pittsburgh Jewish community, any sense how they've reacted to this unspeakable horror?
I don't think it really divides up by age. I think that the community has rallied together and rallied to support each other, and that what's been truly heartwarming has been to see the young people taking leadership roles in that and embracing people who are older than them and younger than them, and the community has really come together in an extraordinary way from the very first moments when we started to learn of what was going on. And as so often is the case, the person who committed this evil hoped to break us and will only end us making us stronger.
Good for you. Absolutely right. Yesterday, Danny, I was with Malcolm Hoenlein and Arthur Stark, the Executive Vice Chairman and the new Chairman of the Conference of Presidents of Major American Jewish Organizations, and they described to me what it was like for them to be in Pittsburgh the day earlier. And they described this extraordinary coming together of, as you say, all ages in a service that was an expression of all the things you just described, both solidarity and Jewish transcendence. Do you agree with that description?
Well, I was one of the 2 organizers of that service, and it was both a service that was directed at trying to address the immediate emotions within the Jewish community, as well as bringing together our interfaith partners and community partners more broadly. And we had it's hard to estimate really, because we filled a hall that holds almost 3,000, and then there were thousands standing outside, and that was really Jews and non-Jews together, and clearly there was national and international leadership with us, but it really felt like a moment where we began to try to bring our grief into the open, and thereby to converse with each other and to hug each other, and to begin this very, very long process ahead of us of trying to put the community back on its feet.
A long process indeed. And by the way, I want to make sure both of us are clear here. No one is saying that any aspect of this somehow mitigates, somehow washes away the pain, the evil. This should never have happened, and it is lovely that there are things that come out of it, not only lovely, important, that things come out of it of meaning, but the things that come out of it of meaning are there because of a real tragedy, and the world, it's not just Pittsburgh, the world will never be the same. And Danny, I should have said it the way you did. Malcolm went out of his way to describe to me the interfaith quality of that service that you held, and that how it represented not simply aspects of the Jewish community, but that the entire, quote, religious community of Pittsburgh was standing with you, and it was as if it had happened to them as well.
Well, I would even broaden it further, religious and non-religious, and the mayor and the county officials were articulate in making absolutely clear that Jews are not only a welcomed part of this city and this region, but a part that, to use their phraseology, that they love and embrace and couldn't imagine this area without. So you really couldn't have had a stronger expression of devotion to the Jewish community and to our presence here and to our contributions here. And the other feature of this is we pulled this together, this rally, this vigil, in 24 hours.
I can't believe it.
And as people observed, the only way you're able to do that is if there are deep pre-existing relationships between communities that you can call upon. So this wasn't some accident. This wasn't some expression that arose out of one evil, horrible, tragic event. This was something that really has been cultivated over a long period of time. That means that the relationships are very deep.
Well, kol hakavod on that aspect of it. And again, it doesn't make any of this any better. And at the same time, it is what it is. And the work you've done, the work the Federation has done, the work the rabbis of Pittsburgh have done, the interfaith work you've been able to both create and, to use your word, there is an embrace. Kol hakavod for all of it. I mentioned the names, the 11 names of people. Did you know any of them?
I knew them to say hello to. I did not know them as closely.
Is there anything you can tell us about the congregation itself, Tree of Life, its tone, its mood, which might not tell us something specific about these 11, but gives us a sense of the community as a whole? What's it like?
Well, first let me offer one small correction.
Please.
There are actually 3 congregations involved, 3 congregations that met under the one roof at the Tree of Life building. So there's the Tree of Life congregation, which is a conservative congregation. There's New Light, which is also another conservative congregation. And there's Dor Chadash, which is a Reconstructionist congregation. And tragically, the purveyor of evil went to all 3 congregations, and so among the dead are members of all 3 congregations. And each congregation has its own particular characteristics, but these are congregations that are close-knit in the sense that they're of a size where everybody knows everybody among the people who go to synagogue, and they're in a neighborhood setting. To understand Squirrel Hill, and I'm sure people have become more familiar with it through the coverage they've been watching, but to understand Squirrel Hill, it's really a neighborhood that you can easily walk in, and where people know each other, and where there is a real sense of cohesiveness. One of the great strengths of this community, and one of the things that really drew me in early on, was the sense of closeness and cooperation and understanding that exists among all different types of Jews across the spectrum. So it became natural when these three congregations shrunk a little that they would decide to share the one facility. So they came from different places and then ended up sharing this one building, and it's proven to be a very good arrangement. Tragically, of course, it meant that they were all in the same place when evil came.
Yes, but kol hakavod to the process. Good for them. So, Danny, what was it like to be a Jew in Pittsburgh, let's say the prior Shabbat? If I was there a week ago or 2 weeks before this happened, what was Jewish life like?
Vibrant, cohesive, happy, very devoted to keeping Jewish life alive, and yet challenged by all the same sorts of challenges that the Jewish communities across the country are facing, the challenges of assimilation and the various different issues that we face as American Jews. So not an atypical community in most ways. The only thing that one would point to as being distinctive is the fact that since the Jewish community of Pittsburgh never really moved out to the suburbs, maintained its ancestral center in Squirrel Hill, it really meant that people were very closely tied to each other in this cooperative way that I've not seen anywhere else. And I've spent time in Australia, obviously, and in Israel and other Jewish communities in North America, and Pittsburgh is really distinctive in that regard.
If I walked through Squirrel Hill, would I feel everywhere I walked it was a Jewish neighborhood?
Not everywhere. As the mayor said, the Jewish community is the backbone of Squirrel Hill, so it's a very important part of the support structure, but it's not the totality.
Okay.
And one of the features of Squirrel Hill really is its diversity and the amazing range of nationalities and religious backgrounds that make up the neighborhood, and different ethnicities, restaurants, etc. So no, you wouldn't take every step and feel like you were in a Jewish neighborhood, but you would certainly not be able to miss the Jewish aspects.
Would I see any Jews in Squirrel Hill or in Pittsburgh in general wearing a yarmulke, a kippah, or a Magen David, a Star of David?
Unquestionably. And kippot and Hasidic garb and all the things that one would expect to find.
So if I were there 2 weeks ago and I spoke to the Jews of Pittsburgh, would they express any fear of anti-Semitism? Well,
Jews of Pittsburgh is a broad term, but by and large, no.
Okay.
In other words, I do a great deal of teaching of adults across town, and so I have the opportunity to discuss anti-Semitism with them a lot. And I frequently ask the question: where in America would you feel unsafe to go as a Jew? I wear a kippah full time. Where would I want to take my kippah off if I was going somewhere in America that would be dangerous? Because certainly when I go to Europe, I take my kippah off.
Absolutely.
And almost universally, the Jews that I teach would say, well, I really can't think of anywhere that you would have to take your kippah off in America. So if you'd ask people the question up until this last Shabbat, how they would rate the level of risk, the level of danger, I think that they would have said it's very low.
Okay. Do you think if I were there now and I asked the exact same question, or as you're teaching, and you will ask this question yourself at some point in the near future.
Yes.
Do you think this experience, and again, this is so horrific. What I'm trying to understand is, do you think your community generalizes from this mad act of violence to a threat against them in general? Or do you think that your community will be able to keep this as an aberration, an aberration of a sick anti-Semite that would make no one who would have wear a kippah before take it off, as you do and as any sane person does when they travel the streets in certain European countries? Do you think it will change the level of general fear within the Pittsburgh community?
Well, Mark, as I indicated, right now we're in a very, very emotional time.
Yes.
And it's way too early for the cerebral part of this to really kick in. So let me answer your question by trying to guess how people might answer 6 months from now.
Good.
Because I'm sure that if we asked people now, there would be very very emotional responses, which would be understandable. My hunch is that 6 months from now, people will say that it is an aberration, as you describe it. That what happened was an event that was utterly shocking and utterly singular, and that while one can never rule out these things happening again, of course, that this is not characteristic of either our city or American society more generally.
I think you say it beautifully. Have you personally, Danny, ever experienced anti-Semitism? Have any of your children growing up in Pittsburgh come to you and say they experienced anti-Semitism?
No.
Okay. Then what do you think of the claim that's being made now by Jewish leadership across the country that Pittsburgh, that the Tree of Life massacre is a symptom of burgeoning anti-Semitism in America?
I think that one has to consider that within context, because to make that claim, as I'm hearing broadly made, without putting it into a bigger picture, I think is to distort the threat to Jews. After all, when we say anti-Semitism is rising, then most Jews come to the conclusion that their circumstances are becoming more and more dangerous. But how do we exactly understand that if it's within the context of a community that embraces us with an outpouring of love of the type we described earlier? So, to me, anti-Semitism is rising within the context of Jewish history is a statement that ought to lead to widespread Jewish fear, because it means that the likelihood that we're going to be threatened is getting higher. But this is not the normal context of Jewish history. The normal context of Jewish history is when somebody comes to attack a synagogue, the people around the neighborhood either start to cheer or are indifferent and do nothing. Here we have something that is virtually unheard of in Jewish history, where that not only are they not cheering or doing nothing, but they're the outpouring of not just verbalized affection, but practical help is coming from every quarter imaginable. So how do you understand anti-Semitism rising within the context of also rising love? That's a very different framework for our understanding of anti-Semitism. So it may be true that the number of people who are potential threats is indeed getting higher. But it's also true that the people who love us and want us to be here and very much embrace who we are as Jews is also expanding. So I think that we have to think about anti-Semitism in a more sophisticated way than simply coming out and saying anti-Semitism is rising, as many organizations like to do, because I think that is really a very narrow framework within which to understand the phenomenon.
Danny, I think you say it beautifully. I hope everyone hearing you on JBS throughout the country learns something about where we are in Jewish life today. Have you taken your yarmulke off?
Absolutely not.
If your children were home and they wanted to wear a kippah, would you be frightened for them?
I would encourage it. I do encourage it. No, I wouldn't be frightened.
Okay. I could not agree.
And by the way, I should add, over the last week, we're still ramping up and trying to figure out what our security needs will be going forward.
Yes.
But I haven't. But I'm still running classes, and nobody has yet failed to turn up because they were afraid to enter a Jewish institution.
Well, good for them and good for you.
And minyanim are all going on across town, even though we haven't got it all worked out fully yet. I don't see the slightest hesitation among the Jews of Pittsburgh to return to their institutions.
Beautiful. So there's one aspect, and I hesitate to even bring it up because the last thing I need is to politicize this event. And I've tried very hard not to. And I've talked about, from my perspective, this isn't about the president who happens to be in the White House today. And this is not about rampant anti-Semitism. The sky is not falling and people are not coming after Jews. But there was an issue made about whether President Trump should or should not come to the community. We know that there are some in Pittsburgh, obviously, are very much against this president. And when he said he wanted to come, there were those who told him not to come. And Rabbi Myers of the synagogue first said, come. Then the way it's portrayed, he got pushback. He said, no, don't come. And then he did accompany the president when the president did visit Pittsburgh. If without talking about Trump, do you think that the Jewish community in general appreciated the fact that the President of the United States came to express his condolences to the community?
If I understand the community broadly, the majority of the community here is more liberal in its makeup. This is a very democratic county, and the majority of Jews would be therefore Democrats. And so if your question is, would the majority of Jews have welcomed his visit, I think the answer is no.
So much of the politicization of this gets in the way of what you and I understand is the essence of the kind of embrace you created at that interfaith, you called it a rally, but it was an evening of transcending embrace. And I give you all kol hakavod to you, to the Federation, to everybody who stands with you, and I hope you do hear from me. And I'm sure you've heard it now. Everywhere you go, every Jew and every American of goodwill is so sorry and wishes they could do anything possible, and we want the healing process to be complete, refuah shlema, not only of body but especially of soul. And I am convinced that the Jewish community you describe will once again transcend and be as vibrant and as exciting and as energetic and as full of Jewish life as you described it would have been 2 weeks earlier. And Danny, this was so lovely of you. I hope I get to meet you in person one day. But thank you for spending time with us here on JBS.
That's quite all right. Thank you, Mark. We appreciate all your wishes, and I'm sure that this community will eventually get back on its feet and will be even stronger than it was before.
Thank you, Danny.
Thank you.
Rabbi Danny Schiff, Jewish Community Foundation scholar at the United Jewish Federation of Pittsburgh. He is part of those who are doing extraordinary work right now to sustain and to help the healing process and to rebuild into vibrant, energetic Jewish life the Jewish community of Pittsburgh. And I found his comments about anti-Semitism extraordinarily important, and I hope you heard him well. As always, my thanks to our director, Sloan Copeland, and to our producer of this edition of In the News, Carol Lilienthal. Until the next time, I'm Mark Golub. Be well, my friends.